Hey everyone, I'm Salty, and this is episode 2 of the Iavorah recaps. So far, the party has taken down a little den of bandits, discovered that there has been a necromancer of sorts going around paying people for dead bodies and such. And today, after they have headed to Snuvik to the east, we find out what sort of work they find. So the party makes their way unhindered to Snuvik, and they learn that the Black Knights had been here a few weeks ago and they'd cleared out the town cemetery of all the bodies. Sort of odd, but they understand that these necromancers are kind of too much for them to handle at the moment, and they're just looking for some simple work to sort of suit their capacity at the moment. The next day, they negotiate with a small caravan, and they reach the agreement that they will be paid 5 gold pieces each, including food and board, as they escort this caravan further west a few towns. And the party is successful. They make it back to Lostad, the first city in their little journey, and they stop for a few days as the traders again go to work, and the party has a little bit of free time on their hands, and they head out during the day to the north of town in search of some elk to hunt to hopefully find some more rations for their journey ahead. And that evening, they find a small herd and they pick a target. Cobra casts sleep on one of the elks, and the herd scampers off as they approach. As they get closer, they notice there's a giant elk at the edge of the woods watching them. As they approach the sleeping elk, so does the giant elk. They notice as they get closer that the giant elk has lost patches of its fur and it has this odd disease or fungus, they're not quite sure, and it's begun to grow in place of the fur. Mimer the druid casts Speak with Animals and talks to the large elk. They learn that the land has been cursed, and the disease the elk suffers from is related to that curse. And they also know that sightings of giant elk of this sort are usually signs of good fortune for the land, but the sickness surely means that it's an ill omen in this time. After a little bit more talking, the giant elk agrees to allow the party to take the sleeping elk as its food. The elk claims it can only spare a few, since the land is dying now, and their numbers are dwindling. As the elk leaves, Grim takes out the dagger from the bandit camp and goes to dress the elk, but he finds, stored in the sheath, a crude map. The map leads to a tomb a day's travel east of Lostad. The party returns to town, arranges the meat to be prepared, and they head off to the old tomb. On the way there to the tomb, they are attacked by a pair of cockatrices, large bird-like monsters, and they can paralyze you with their claws. But alas, the monsters were no match for the party. After Thunderwave, Magic Missile, and Grimm's trusty old maul, the party defeats them and continues on to the tomb. They find the tomb has been cleared out of any bodies, dead or undead, and as they enter the main chamber, they find this large stone coffin with a carving on the back wall depicting a battle between good and evil. At the bottom of the carving, they find the words, "The soldiers of evil hide the secrets of good." Wary and afraid, they lift up the stone coffin lid, expecting some trap to trigger, but all they find is a shield depicting a warrior astride a horse. Cobra the sorcerer recalls that Zathara, one of the conquering warriors, used the shield in battle, and it was said to deflect any arrow fired at her. Quickly, the party leaves the dungeon, sure that something would awaken and stop them on their way out. But nothing comes. They exit the tomb, and Grim takes his time to attune to the shield and finds that it's cursed. And now he is too. Any arrow fired near him now seeks him out, regardless of the original target. They return to Lostad to seek out the church, who can hopefully help them remove the curse. But to their disappointment, they find that the Black Knights had come to Lostad months ago, and aside from taking all the bodies in the cemetery and whatever was in the old tomb, had also killed all the devout priests of Pelor in the church. They hear the story from Zach, once a cleric of the church, but now little more than a mourner. So that was our second session. The characters are learning a good bit more about the world, and players are getting more comfortable with their characters, learning their combat potential and their abilities and stuff. And now that they're level 2, they can begin to take on bigger and better tasks. One thing I have yet to mention was Jordan is no longer with the party. Distraught from the encounter, the bandit captain, he chose to go separate ways from the party for a time. Will he return? It's too soon to know. But next week we will have Sirocco, the monk, who is joining us for on and off sessions. And I'm looking forward to see what else the party can hopefully uncover with him. Till next time, I'm Salty, I'll see you next week.